She said, "I need space to figure things out with my ex." I replied, "Take all the time you need." Then I took the honeymoon alone, and when she saw my sunset picture captioned, "Peace looks better without you," that's when she started calling Nonstop. I 34 and reside in the United States. For 4 years, Claire and I constructed a life together here. We became engaged last winter beneath a string of lights in my parents' backyard, and people referred to us as steady. However, 2 months prior to the wedding, small issues began to surface. She ceased sending spontaneous photos of her day, and our calls shortened while we sat on the couch, her gaze seemingly elsewhere. Initially, I attributed it to stress, a common occurrence surrounding wedding preparations. However, I began to notice her silence when I mentioned our honeymoon, how she would scroll through her phone late at night and lock the screen when I approached. I inquired once, "Are you all right?" She smiled and claimed fatigue. I wanted to believe her. The night it all unraveled was a Tuesday. We dined on pasta in our apartment, the kind we prepared during lazy moments, with Spotify playing softly in the background. She pushed her food around her plate, staring out the window as if it held some answer. "I need to say something," she stated. "Okay. I do not believe I am ready for marriage." "What do you mean?" I asked. "I feel as though I have lost myself," she confessed. "I need space to reconnect with my past with Aaron." Aaron, the college ex who had betrayed her and later pretended it had not occurred. I had heard his name numerous times, always in the context of an old tale she recounted during our early dating days. I never expected to hear it now. I refrained from raising my voice, leaning forward, or attempting to persuade her. I simply leaned back, allowing the chair to support me. "Do what you must, Claire." Her head rose as if my response had taken her by surprise. She had anticipated a confrontation but received a calm reply instead. Her eyes glistened, and she whispered, "I am sorry, more to the table than to me." We continued to eat in silence for several more minutes, feigning the completion of our dinner, both aware that we were merely shifting food around. That night, I lay on the couch with the television off, the ceiling appearing like a map. I replayed our shared memories, our first apartment, the road trip across Utah, the day she accepted my proposal. It all felt simultaneously near and distant, resembling a town visible from the highway yet unreachable due to a closed exit. At sunrise, I prepared coffee, finding reassurance in the routine. She emerged with a small duffel bag slung over her shoulder and a red mark on her cheek from the pillow seam. "I will stay at my sister's," she announced. "Just for a little while. Take all the time you need." "You are not angry." "I am unsure of what I am feeling," I replied. She nodded, and we both stood there, two individuals who once shared everything but now could not find a single sentence that fit. She placed her key on the counter but then reconsidered and took it back. "I will need this to collect the mail," she remarked. Practical, as if we were roommates. I opened the door for her. She stepped out into a sky that had not yet decided whether it would rain. The hallway carried the scent of fresh paint. She turned once, appearing small as if she wished to impart some hopeful sentiment but was unable to do so. The elevator doors closed behind us. Upon returning inside, the apartment felt overly neat, akin to a hotel. After checkout, her mug rested on the rack, clean and turned upside down. The wedding binder lay on the shelf, a ribbon marking the vendor's page. I picked it up and then set it down once more. I poured another cup of coffee and stood by the window long enough for it to grow cold. Outside, people were commencing their day as if nothing had changed. For me, everything had transformed. I was uncertain about my next steps, but I recognized that I would not plead with anyone to stay, not any longer. After she departed, the silence in the apartment was not painful. It merely existed there, akin to furniture that had always been part of the room. I had simply failed to notice it before. Initially, I presumed I would experience anger or jealousy, yet what I felt was lighter. Not happiness, not sadness, merely stillness. I prepared breakfast, opened the window, and glanced at the wedding binder again. The florist, the venue, the cake tasting, all appeared as narratives belonging to someone else now, someone who no longer existed. At that moment, I realized I did not wish to hold space for something that had already disintegrated. Thus, I retrieved my phone and commenced making calls. The wedding planner was the first to answer, as cheerful as ever. "Hey Ethan, what's up? I need to cancel everything." A pause ensued. "Everything?" Yes, the bride altered her plans. Each call was straightforward and brief. Venue, caterer, DJ, all canceled. There was no anger and no lengthy explanations, just quiet acceptance. Each cancellation felt like gently closing a door, not slamming it. When I reached the travel agent, I hesitated. The honeymoon. 2 weeks in Italy. A trip we had dreamt about for months. "Can I change the tickets to one traveler instead of two?" "Of course," she replied. "Is there anywhere else you would recommend?" "Well, there is a Mediterranean cruise. Similar dates, same price range." "I will take it." I did not hesitate. The thought of floating on open waters seemed precisely what I required. No dramatic farewells, no pleading for clarity. I simply packed a small suitcase and resolved that if life offered me silence, I would transform it into peace. 3 days elapsed without a message from her. Then, one evening, my phone buzzed. "Claire, hey? Just checking if you are okay." "Me? I am well. I hope you are sorting things out." That was all. No lengthy discussions or inquiries. Later, her sister texted me. Nothing dramatic, merely a brief note. "She has been communicating with Aaron. Appears confused. Thought you should be aware." I did not respond. I had no need to. Deep down, I already understood that this reconnection would not provide her with the answers she sought. One cannot heal by returning to the fire. A few mornings later, I boarded the cruise. The air smelled of salt and sunscreen. Families laughed as they checked in, and couples posed for photographs by the rail. I walked to my cabin, complete with a king-sized bed, a balcony, and the sea right outside. For the first time in weeks, I took a deep breath. Each day became uncomplicated. Mornings with coffee and sunrises. Afternoons spent reading on deck, and evenings filled with live music and strangers who shared their stories with me. None were aware of mine, nor did they inquire. That was the best part. One evening, leaning against the railing with a drink, I pulled out my phone and posted a photo. Just me, the ocean, and the caption, "New beginnings." I did not think much of it until a few hours later when I noticed her name appear in my DMs. "Claire, where are you?" I responded with a photo of the sea. That was when her panic began. I could sense it even from miles away. She had anticipated my remaining in place, frozen while she rummaged through her past. But I was already gone. Neither angry nor spiteful, merely finished. The cruise was not an escape. It was a restart. Each sunrise felt like permission to move forward. For years, I had shouldered the burden of maintaining perfection. Now, I was learning to allow life to be what it is, unpredictable yet mine. I did not check my phone again that night. The ocean was serene, and for the first time in a long while, so was I. By the time the ship reached its next port, something within me had changed. I was no longer counting days or wondering if she would call. I was not scrolling through old photographs or reading past messages. I simply existed in the present, sharing breakfasts with strangers, witnessing sunsets over calm waters, and enjoying quiet nights on the deck where the horizon melted into gold. That tranquility was new, strange, yet good. One morning, I stood by the railing, coffee in hand, and realized I hadn't thought about Claire in hours. Not because I was forcing it, but because she no longer occupied every corner of my mind. The noise had diminished, leaving behind clarity. Meanwhile, back home, I knew her space had transformed into regret. Her sister's occasional updates painted a sufficiently clear picture. Claire appeared lost. Aaron was not the man she remembered. The past she sought was merely an echo, not a home. However, that was no longer my concern. She had embarked on a quest for self-discovery, only to find herself clutching pieces of something that could not be reassembled. Upon the cruise's conclusion, I disembarked, feeling lighter. Not because the pain had vanished, but because I had ceased fighting it. I learned that peace does not always roar. Sometimes, it simply hums quietly when you finally cease trying to control everything. Back home, the apartment felt different. Not empty, but open, allowing me to breathe again. I unpacked slowly and began to create space. The wedding invitations were boxed up, the shared calendar deleted, and her belongings removed from the bathroom sink. Each small act marked another step toward a fresh start. There was no anger in it, just acceptance. The life we had built was not wasted. It simply reached an unanticipated ending. A few days later, she reached out. "Claire, Ethan, can we talk?" I saw the message but did not respond immediately. I wanted to ensure that I was not reacting out of old habits. The urge to fix, to comfort, to simplify things for her. I waited for 2 days before agreeing to meet. We settled on a small cafe situated halfway between our apartments, neutral ground. The day we met, I arrived early. It was a cool afternoon, and the cafe emitted the scent of cinnamon and espresso. It was quiet enough to hear the gentle clinking of cups. I sat by the window, observing passers-by, some holding hands, some laughing, all living their lives. Upon her entrance, I almost did not recognize her immediately. The confident aura she once possessed had dimmed. Her shoulders appeared burdened, her smile uncertain. She donned a sweater I had seen countless times, yet it somehow appeared different on her now, as if a memory striving to remain alive. She noticed me and waved softly, almost cautiously. I stood, offered a polite nod, and waited for her to take a seat. Her gaze scanned me momentarily, as if trying to decipher my expression. Perhaps she expected coldness or animosity, but I felt neither. Just calm. "You look good," she said quietly. I nodded and took a sip of my coffee. "Thank you. You too." Then silence enveloped us. Not the comfortable kind we once shared, but one laden with everything left unsaid. We both stared at the table for several seconds, allowing the weight of it all to linger. She finally exhaled, her voice soft. "I thought I needed clarity. I believed reconnecting with Aaron would assist me in understanding what I wanted." Her eyes lifted, searching mine. "But he is not the person I remembered. I realized I already had what I needed with you." I refrained from responding immediately, allowing her words to settle. She gazed at me with familiar hope, the kind people possess when they believe they can turn back time. Yet time does not function that way. I leaned back, steady. "Claire, I am glad you have realized that. However, I am not the same person you left." She blinked, surprised. "What do you mean?" I placed my cup down. "You sought space to find yourself. I utilized that space to find peace. I am not looking back now." Her shoulders sagged. The silence between us deepened, but this time, I made no attempt to fill it. "Ethan, I made a mistake."
No, irraplia sufli.
"You made a choice, and I respected it." That was the truth. I did not walk away to punish her. I walked away because she made the choice first. Her eyes lowered, and I could sense reality finally sinking in. The door she thought she could reopen was closed, not out of anger but acceptance. I settled my bill, stood, and said, "Take care, Claire." In the subsequent days, Claire endeavored to maintain contact. A text here, a memory there. She sent a photograph of us from a weekend trip years prior, captioned "Remember this." I glanced at it for a moment before placing the phone down. There was nothing left to discuss. Occasionally, silence conveys more truth than any response ever could. Still, she persisted in reaching out. Not incessantly, merely enough to convey her attempts to reconstruct something she had already destroyed. I responded courteously, never cold, yet never inviting. That was all I could provide. A week later, while perusing my gallery, deciding which photos from the trip to retain, I felt the cruise represented a different lifetime, one I did not wish to forget. Sunsets, conversations with strangers, tranquil mornings with coffee. Each image reminded me of how far I had progressed. On a fleeting impulse, I shared one. Me at a rooftop dinner, city lights behind me, with a few friends from the cruise laughing at the table. Beside me sat someone new. A woman with kind eyes, a confident demeanor, and an easy smile. We had met on the ship, conversed for hours about literature and travel, and somehow remained in touch. No labels, no expectations, just peace. The caption was simple. Life grants peace to those who cease pursuing chaos. I did not think much of it, yet a few hours later, her name illuminated my screen. Claire, who is she? I viewed the message, fully aware of her feelings. The fear did not stem from losing me. It was about realizing I was not waiting. I was someone who reminded her that love should not feel like walking on eggshells. The typing bubble appeared, vanished, then reappeared. Eventually, her message arrived. Claire, do you hate me? I paused, contemplating my response carefully. Me? No, but I do not love you anymore either. That truth was neither sharp nor cruel. It was steady, and somehow, that made it resonate more deeply. For a time, she did not reply. I envisioned her seated there, staring at the screen, finally grasping what I had understood weeks ago. Once you break something founded on trust, you not only lose the relationship, but you also lose the version of the person who would have fought for it. Her journey of self-discovery had cost her everything stable, the simple joy of being with someone who chose her every day. Meanwhile, I was not rushing into anything new. I did not wish to fill a void out of loneliness. I sought to fill it with purpose. Thus, I began living differently, embarking on weekend hikes, cooking for myself again, and picking up the guitar I had not touched in years. I was not chasing distractions. I was rediscovering who I was without her presence in the room. Friends inquired if I would ever take her back. My response was always the same. I forgave her, but forgiveness does not equate to reunion, and I genuinely meant it. Clinging to anger only tethers you to the past, and I did not desire that. I sought freedom, the kind that arises from letting go without resentment. The months passed. Occasionally, she would appear in my notifications, a small like on a post, a hope you are well message, but it never progressed beyond that. Every conversation concluded in the same manner, courteously. One night, she sent a lengthy message, no inquiries, merely a quiet apology. I thought clarity would come from looking back, but all it did was highlight what I discarded. I am sorry, Ethan. You did not deserve any of this. I read it twice before responding simply, I know. I hope you find peace too. And that was the end of it, no grand finale, just two individuals accepting that certain paths do not lead back home. As I surveyed my apartment that night, it finally felt like mine once again. The walls were quieter, and the air felt lighter. Not because she had departed, but because I had ceased waiting for her return. I sat on the balcony, observing the city lights flickering below, and reflected on how endings are not always tragic. Sometimes, they are simply necessary. Following that message, the silence returned. An absence of ache, a silence that resembled peace. I no longer counted days, checked my phone, or replayed past moments. The chapter had concluded, and I was no longer lingering at the door. Claire did not reach out frequently thereafter. Perhaps once every few weeks with a small, "Hope you are okay," or a reaction to a photograph. I replied when it felt appropriate, polite, yet there was no us anymore. That segment of my life had settled, and I had no desire to disturb it. Her sister confided in a friend that Claire was attempting to date again, but it never lasted long. She remarked that everything felt off. Each conversation, every subtle gesture. I suppose that once you have experienced someone who offers steady love, chaos feels burdensome. And once that steady love departs, the silence it leaves behind is deafening. My life did not instantly transform into perfection. There were still lonely evenings and moments when I would reach for my phone, only to stop myself. Yet, I learned something along the way. Not every void necessitates filling. Some merely require understanding. I began to accept more invitations, dinners with friends, weekend excursions, and small moments that previously slipped past me. I did not pursue new love. I allowed it to arrive in its own time. One afternoon, a close friend inquired, "Do you believe you will ever forgive her?" I smiled. "I already have. Forgiveness is not for them. It is for you." However, Forgiveness does not imply reunion. That statement resonated with me because it was truthful. I no longer carried her mistake. I had set it down somewhere between the sunsets and the sea breeze. Months passed, and my life became full once more. Not through distraction but through living. I learned to trust more slowly, laugh more easily, and prioritize peace over proving a point. Revenge never crossed my mind. I had no need for it. Growth was the only rational response. Then, one morning, I awoke to a simple message. Claire, happy birthday, Ethan. I hope you are well. Me, thank you, Claire. I am. That was the entirety of it. Nostalgia. Two individuals who once shared everything, now reduced to a few simple words, and that was acceptable. Later that evening, I sat on my balcony, watching the sky turn orange. A gentle breeze rustled through the trees, and I recognized how far I had traveled. Love had not concluded in hatred. It had culminated in acceptance. The kind that requires no closure dinners or lengthy discussions, only peace. Somewhere out there, she was still on her journey of self-discovery. I harbored no wish for her suffering. I desired her clarity, the kind she had sought in all the wrong places. Because sometimes, when you depart to find yourself, you end up losing the individual who made you feel found. And sometimes that is the lesson. I did not triumph through vengeance. I prevailed by choosing stillness, rebuilding quietly, and refusing to carry bitterness into my future. Now, when individuals inquire about Claire, I do not recount a tale of betrayal. I share a narrative of growth, of how love can fade without fury, and how endings can be gentle if you allow them to be. These days, I have met someone new. Not a replacement, merely a different chapter. She chooses me without hesitation, and each day feels calm rather than cautious. We do not discuss the past much. There is no need. It taught me what I needed to know, that love rooted in peace flourishes stronger than love built on uncertainty. Thus, here I stand, in the same city beneath the same sky, finally at ease. Not because I have forgotten what transpired, but because I have learned what truly matters.